It's the Hackney Gazette which have picked up on this, and it's in their area. It's about a gallery which people are very unhappy about.
Very unhappy about. This has been picked up elsewhere, but the Hackney Gazette really made the running with this story. It's a march that took place on Saturday against an art gallery called LD50 in Hackney, which has been accused of supporting neo-Nazis because it emerged, as I said, the Gazette's very much led on this. An alt-right exhibition, or far-right in old money really, featuring extreme speakers. And as this came out, a kind of impromptu march was organised, which was quite huge. The gallery was actually shut on the day. Police officers had very little to do. The Hackney Mayor, Philip Glanville, has now asked the police to look into this to see whether this gallery has actually broken the law. They held talks from extreme far-right speakers last summer, and they really were. One of them, Brett Stevens, has blogged about the bravery of Anders Breivik, the Norwegian killer, which is not only crass and stupid, but obviously incredibly insulting. They've had these. He said in his blog that they've had to hold them behind a veil of secrecy to prevent attacks from life. The gallery director, Lucia Diego, had denied this and said that they were public but had to be made private after abusive messages. It really has riled an awful lot of people locally in an area like Hackney, which has always had a very proud tradition of fighting this kind of extremism. Yeah,
and we won't go into too much more details, but I know the gallery has tried to defend themselves in terms of what's going on. It seems the authorities there will now investigate and see whether or not it has actually broken any laws. Let's move on to something slightly lighter. Now,
yes.
This is a situation where you've gone into a supermarket and you want to buy lots of food, and you think the supermarket will be grateful for your money, and actually they say, no, you can't have it.
Yeah, this is slightly, it's very odd. It's from the Get West London website, and you're absolutely right. These were two volunteers for a homeless charity, the St Lawrence's Larder in Brondesbury. They went to the Tesco at Brent Cross, stocking up a trolley full of tins to take to this to their charity, and they were stopped by a sales assistant who told them they were, quote, buying too much food. And this is very odd. They took it up with the manager, and this is at the point in the story where ordinarily you get the apology and, a big mistake's been made. And the manager also agreed it was too much. So they took to social media, as is people's wont these days, and put what happened, and people said, this was appalling, really, really bad, disgraceful and absolutely disgusting. So they've gone to the Tesco head office, and again, this is where you expect them to say an awful mistake has been made. No, they say we do have to ensure that the product's available for everyone, so our colleagues use their discretion when customers are buying in bulk. We apologise for any inconveniences. Now they're looking if there's some way that they can link up with a charity so that perhaps any good quality surplus food can be provided. But you think this is very, very strange that these kind of rapacious capitalist firms say, well, actually, no, there's a limit on how much you can buy.
I knew there were issues with iceberg lettuce. I was unaware that spaghetti hoops were in demand as well. Let's move on. Now, this is something in East London. You'd be very embarrassed if this was you that had been caught out here, talking about your athlete's foot with a doctor and everybody else can hear.
Indeed. We're just athletes, I think, in some cases. Barking Dagenham Post, they have reported on the Care Quality Commission's report into a GP surgery in Dagenham, the Hedgemans Medical Centre. They've been found lacking in several departments, but one, as the headline says, patients' chats were overheard by patients in the nearby waiting room. So confidential conversations between patients and their doctors were overheard. And they've been told they must improve in patient confidentiality. I mean, this is pretty bad.
It's your worst kind of nightmare, isn't it, really, when you've gone in there and you know that everybody else is listening to you, and it takes men all the effort they've got anyway to get to the doctors. If they know that people can hear what they're saying when they get in there, it'd be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I literally have to be dragged kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
So if I thought there was any chance whatsoever that people outside could hear me talking, that would literally be the last time I ever set foot in a doctor's.
That bit of plywood and that curtain is not going to do it. They need something thicker, don't they? Finally, let's talk about an individual who has paid a fortune. Well, thankfully, they haven't actually had to, but it could have been a big bill.
Yeah, absolutely love this story. Picked up nationally, but it was a Croydon advertiser, I think, who had this. It is an Uber passenger, and people see the headline. He wanted to go from Brixton to Croydon, and he was hit with a fare of £467 after he fell asleep, and he was taken to Bristol. So this is Aaron Ray. He had been out with friends at the end of the night, decided to get this Uber. Now, there's a bit of an argument over what happened here. He said that he showed the a taxi exactly where he wanted to go. What Uber and the driver are saying is that he gave a Bristol address, which is plausible because he is a student in Bristol when he's not in London, so he would have had that address in there. He fell asleep in the car. By the time he woke up, this car had taken him to Bristol and was on the way back to London as the driver realised the error. So what should have been a half-an-hour journey costing about £20 took 5 hours and 21 minutes and set him back more than £467.
£467. And you can imagine that actually probably the situation was resolved here once the media were brought in and they thought, actually, perhaps in good gesture, we might say, it's not your fault.
Yeah, and that's what Uber is saying. They're saying they want to contact him. It's clearly an unfortunate mistake. They want to make a goodwill gesture and refund it. There's one wonderful line in his story. Upset at the detour, Mr. Ray gave his Uber driver a 1-star rating. I don't know if you can give no stars on Uber.
1 is probably the lowest you can get.